Audio-Animatronics figures have been a staple of the Disney Parks experience all the way since 1963 with the Enchanted Tiki Room, and while this technology keeps getting better and better, even with what we've seen recently, the future of this technology might be headed down a different path than you'd expect. What's up YouTube? Drew here. Today I want to take a look at the current state of Audio-Animatronics technology and where I think it's going to be headed in the future, maybe even to bring some characters to life that we know and love in ways that have never been done before. With that being said, let's get to it. Without Walt Disney himself, Audio-Animatronics technology as a whole, nor where it is today, would have been possible. Without him, none of this would exist. So I like to think back to Walt starting this and then looking on what we have today. So some of this new stuff that we've been seeing, the brand new A1000s and these country bears being rebuilt as these hydraulic figures, the Audio-Animatronics technology continued to be a staple of the Disney Parks experience, and the old technology mixed with the new technology are still being major parts of the new experiences debuting right now. So it's incredible to see the old technology being updated like these country bears. They're incredible. I truly am impressed, more than I expected, by the amount of love that was poured into these figures and these brand new A1000s, which are electric. And I'm so excited that they're going to continue to be a part of the attractions and bringing these characters to life that we know and love. But there's something that no one is talking about, and it's been around for a few years, and I want to talk about that today, and it has to do with characters. Characters, if you think about characters at the Disney Parks, characters as a whole are a staple of the Disney Parks experience. I mean, if you look at families, look at the character interactions and the character meet and greets that we have at Disney Parks worldwide, that's a big part of what people know and love with the Disney Parks. I mean, that's the emotional attachment. When you think about Mickey Mouse and a family going to take their baby to meet Mickey for the first time, I see those videos on TikTok all the time. That is a big part of the Disney Parks experience. And like I said, in my opinion, I think that there is something that we are going to be seeing in the future that starts to bring characters to life in a whole new way. And it has to relate to animatronics and robotics. I think that this is a big thing, and that's why I want to talk about it today. Alright, so I want to go all the way back to November of 2021, because like I said, this has been a few years now where I've been picking up on this, but no one's talking about it. So I'm like, I'm going to talk about it at this point. But November of 2021, Josh D'Amaro, the chairman of Disney Experiences, hosted a presentation at IAAPA Expo. If you don't know, IAAPA Expo, it stands for the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions, and every year, there's about 40,000 people that come here to Orlando, Florida from around the world. It's pretty much everything under the amusement industry, from arcades to water parks to theme parks. Think about it as a giant amusement expo, 40,000 people per year. And like I said, this was back in November of 2021. So this was Josh's first chance to get back in front of this audience since COVID, because IAAPA was canceled in 2020. And at the time, I was one of the youngest, if not the youngest, people in the audience, and this was one of the first times where I actually got to talk to Josh one-on-one. I had the privilege to be getting out of my Uber at the convention center at the time, as Josh was getting out of his van with his team, and we went up the escalators next to each other. I'll never forget that moment. And as I walked into the convention center, I got to say hi to him, and he's like, "Do you know how long this presentation is?" And I'm like, "I think they have it listed as 2 hours." He's like, "Oh no." Turned out that an hour of that was lunch and an hour was him talking, but that's enough story. So at this presentation, this was, like I said, where he got in front of the audience to kind of talk about what Disney was doing to get back on track at the time. And he showed a clip that, as far as I'm aware, has only been shown at this presentation, and it has never been shown again. And he really highlighted what Walt Disney Imagineering Research and Development is doing to bring Disney characters to life in real and natural ways. So back in 2021, Disney had a Tinkerbell playtest at Disney California Adventure Park, and it was bringing Tinkerbell to life in actual size, to where Tinkerbell actually looks like a fairy, which, again, it's bringing these characters to life in ways that have never been done before because of technology. And while this isn't an animatronic or robotic, I wanted to highlight on it because Josh showed it at the presentation in 2021. So that was one of the things. And then he showed some never before seen footage of Project Kiwi. I'll touch on Project Kiwi more later in this video, but that is essentially the Groot free roaming robotic figure. Again, it's bringing Groot to life in a real life way, where Groot is true to size to what we have seen in the Guardians of the Galaxy films. So this presentation, I was very much picking up on Josh is showing these professionals from all around the theme park and amusement industry that Disney is committed to continue to bringing these characters to life in real ways. And here we are now, almost 3 years later, and I have seen what Josh was kind of teasing at the time starting to come to life. And I'm uploading this video before D23, the Ultimate Disney Fan Event, so we might even see some stuff at this showcase on August 10th. But I'm really curious to see what Disney is going to be doing in the future at Disney parks, and I think that this video is the perfect opportunity to highlight on what we could see in the future to bring these characters to life, because like I mentioned, character experiences are an integral part of the Disney parks worldwide, and leaning into this technology that is being worked on by Walt Disney Imagineering Research and Development, I think would be a major win for the Disney parks, and no one is talking about it. So that's a little bit of backstory, going back a few years to what Josh Damar was kind of hinting at the time, and what we are seeing now. But now I want to talk about what we are actually seeing, because if we're seeing things in the parks now, what could that lead to in the future? Alright, so getting to what we are seeing in the Disney parks, I want to start with the first project that we've actually seen over in Avengers Campus at Disney California Adventure Park for a couple years already. This is already a project that's been greenlit. It's in guest view every single day, and it's a big part of Avengers Campus, and that's none other than the Spider-Man Stuntronic. So this is something that leans into this robotic and animatronic technology, but was able to bring Spider-Man to life in the most real way that we have ever seen Spider-Man brought to life. And this was the result of some of the incredible work from Walt Disney Imagineering Research and Development. The two main Imagineers that I have started following as a result of this project is Morgan Pope and Tony Dohey. I'll be mentioning them later because, again, they're at research and development, so they work on a ton of stuff. But this Spider-Man Stuntronic is something that we've seen greenlit, and like I said, it's at Avengers Campus every day. If you go to the park, you can see it. So it's awesome that that's already been greenlit by management and is in the park. And I think a big reason why we saw this greenlit is because this Stuntronic figure is so accurate with its movements every single day. It's extremely reliable, and it's also outside of a guest area. So it's not affecting guests by any way. There's no danger with it by any means, and it's extremely reliable, like I said. So the first one is that Spider-Man Stuntronic, where we've seen it happen. So there's no wonder with that. I guess there could be wonder is how could they bring more characters to life through this Stuntronics technology, but the Spider-Man Stuntronic is at Disney California Adventure Park, and where could that go in the future? We shall see. But very good sign that that's already been greenlit and is doing performances every single day. Another big one that is one of my personal favorites. I mean, quite honestly, I love all these because they're just so cool with all the technology. But Project Kiwi. If you aren't familiar, Project Kiwi was first started in development back in 2018. And Project Kiwi is pretty much well known as the Groot robotic figure, the free roaming robotic Groot, whatever you want to call it. It's the Groot animatronic, so to say. And this is one that I like a lot because it brought Groot to life in a way that we have seen through the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. And again, that's just not possible with a performer. It's only possible through this robotics technology. And this was back 2018 when it first started being developed. We started to see some prototypes in 2020. And then this is where it gets interesting. So I mentioned playtests. Playtests are big because whenever you see a playtest happening, that means a project is to the point where Walt Disney Imagineering can actually put it in front of a guest to where it is a literal test with play, if that makes sense, to where you can put this into a park and it is far enough along in development where they are testing, hey, is this a liable option that we want to use in our parks going forward? So, like I said, back in 2018, we had this first development of Project Kiwi, where they wanted to bring a free roaming robotic actor into the Disney parks. And then we started to see an actual prototype back in 2020. And then 2023, I think it was June of 2023, where we saw the awesome mix with Star-Lord and Groot at Disney California Adventure Park. But it wasn't just Groot, it was the Project Kiwi Groot. and they had Groot interacting with guests on stage and taking pictures and dancing. So that was an actual use with guests at Disney California Adventure Park, and Project Kiwi was on display in front of guests. So again, it's awesome to see that this technology is actually making it to the point where leadership in Walt Disney Imagineering is putting it into the parks. That is the biggest milestone for a project besides it actually being in a park permanently, is when you see a playtest. Playtest is a word that I'll mention a few times throughout this video, so keep that in mind. And Walt Disney Imagineering has even said with that playtest that there's no immediate plans to bring Groot to the parks in the future, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because playtests are the perfect way for Imagineering to get data on if it's worth bringing to life in the future in the same way or a new way. So all of the information and data that Walt Disney Imagineering got from that playtest with Groot at Disney California Adventure is very good, because the fact that that project got to that point, regardless of if we see it as Groot in the future, can lead to even bigger and better things that we might have not even seen yet. So Project Kiwi, a very good one. Would I love to see Groot walking outside of Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at Epcot? That would be pretty cool, especially under the Star Blaster. There's like a little area there. That would be awesome. But it's awesome that this project got to a point where they had it in a park, they've got that information, and now Walt Disney Imagineering Research and Development can build on that for the future. Groot was one of the main highlights that Josh showed at IAAPA in 2021, so it took a couple years to get from the point where he was kind of teasing this being the future of these characters from us actually seeing Groot in the park. So it's really cool to kind of get a rare inside look at the thought process behind what Walt Disney Imagineering Research and Development is doing, to then actually seeing guests interact with Groot and Star-Lord, which I think is really cool. Alright, so that brings us into our next project, which is actually the most recent one, where we saw a not only playtest at Disneyland, but an actual offering at Disneyland after that playtest. So, like I mentioned, I love all of these projects and playtests and technology because I think it's awesome that they actually want to bring characters to life in a real way. But if I'm being real here, I think that this is the one that we are most likely to see used again in the future, not only because we've already seen it in the park as an actual offering, but because of what Disney has said with how flexible this technology is, so to say. And that is none other than the incredibly cute and popular BDX droids that we just saw featured during Season of the Force over in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland Park. So everyone knows these as the cute BDX droids that were interacting with baby ducks at Disneyland and jumping up and down. The amount of videos I have seen on these little guys on social media is awesome, but that actually ties into the playtest. So, like I mentioned, back in October of last year, October of 2023, we saw a surprise one-a-day playtest out of nowhere. Nobody knew that this was coming, but out of nowhere, Walt Disney Imagineering had a project that they were ready to put in guest view, and that's when these BDX droids essentially made their debut over in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And apparently, that playtest was successful because this year, during Season of the Force at Disneyland Park, we saw these BDX droids appearing every single day in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and like I mentioned, they were extremely popular. So if we take a step back here, a big part of why these playtests are done, not only like with what I mentioned with Project Kiwi and Groot to get that information so Imagineering can see if, hey, is this a good idea on paper, or is this a good idea on paper and in the park, but it's a big part to get guest reactions. Are guests having these emotional reactions to these characters as if they were real? That is undoubtedly a big part of why they do these playtests. And I think that these droids were extremely successful from that one-day playtest. Again, this was one day, and then we didn't know if we were going to see them again. Thankfully we did. But like I said, are these characters creating that emotional reaction, and are guests enjoying this interaction between robot, which, you know, is character, and guest, which, you know, are emotions? But that playtest back in October, I think I picked up on pretty quickly that it was successful, because right after that playtest, we started to see a lot of videos and people were like, where did this come from? But not only that, the fact that Bob Iger, the CEO of the Walt Disney Company, and Josh D'Amaro, like I said, the chairman of Disney Experiences, went to Walt Disney Imagineering Research and Development to check them out together, and they actually posted about it on Instagram. So it's not often that we kind of get that inside look from the two top people in the company that oversee the Disney parks actually post about a specific project like this after the playtest. So we went from this project being developed in less than a year to playtest to leadership seeing it to then just a few months later it's being offered as a part of a seasonal event at Disneyland Park for Season of the Force. And that is awesome. They were extremely successful. But I kind of hinted at why I think that these little guys are going to, not necessarily return to Disneyland in this exact form, but there's a lot of potential to bring this technology to life through new characters. This platform that Disney has created can support a myriad of characters, and from the information that Disney has released, there's some fascinating stuff here to why this project was a success. Not only did we kind of get that rare look at Disney considering bringing them to the park, but the information that they've released gives us a really good look into why was it a success. And I love that because I don't just want to, go look at the droid. I want to know, why is this here? How is this here? Who worked on it? That's just how I think. And Disney has talked about that. So I just mentioned that this project was brought to life in less than a year. And when it comes to research and development, having a project go from concept to reality in a year is a very fast turnaround time. So like I just mentioned, this project went from concept to reality to playtest to actual offering in about a year, which is extremely impressive because when it comes to Walt Disney Imagineering research and development, they are quite literally creating new technology for us, the guests. So to have a concept to park in a year is very impressive. And it's not often that we kind of get that information, but not only having that information, but how is this even possible? And Disney actually shared that this technology that they are using is made possible because of the technology that they've created. So not only are these droids technology that they've created, but the technology that made these droids possible, if that makes sense, is also technology that they created. So Walt Disney Imagineering, if you're understanding me correctly, Walt Disney Imagineering has made this technology in-house that then allows for the development of this brand new droid technology to be made possible. The core program can support a myriad of characters, like tons of characters. But the first one that they decided to go with are the droids, because who doesn't love a cute little droid? And that's why they were so popular. But I think the most fascinating thing for me is that part of this technology that Walt Disney Imagineering Research and Development has made is that they were actually able to train these droids digitally. So whenever they were doing that playtest, they were already tested digitally in a simulation. So picture that they have this technology done, and then they are able to test their technology digitally in a simulation so that whenever they brought it to Disneyland, it was already a success at that point, which is just so cool. The fact that they created technology in-house that they then tested technology on in-house to then take it to the park, that's just so cool to me that they were able to do all of this in a year. And the fact that this technology is done in-house means that we could see so many more characters brought to life, tested in that simulation in who knows how many different ways. I'm fascinated by the fact that someone had the idea to make this new technology that was successful enough to the point that they were able to make these droids, let alone digitally train them to where they were ready to go when they were 3D printed. And that's something that I haven't even mentioned this entire time, is that these are all 3D printed figures. So they're able to be brought to life extremely quickly, and 3D printing, I'm assuming, isn't expensive at all. So this is a project that's a win all around, and that's exactly why we saw them as a offering over at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge during Season of the Force. When you look at literally everything from this project, to it being turned around in a year, to Josh D'Amaro and Bob Iger liking them, to this in-house software that can train them so that there is success in the park, to guests loving it. Literally everything about this project was a win. So I'm hoping that we see Disney in the future use this brand new technology that they have created to bring a myriad of characters to life through this 3D printing and everything that they are doing in-house. I'm fascinated by this project, and it lines up exactly with what we saw, like I said, I've said it multiple times now, but at Season of the Force. When you look at the concept to reality to guests enjoying a project, it's because of everything that I just mentioned. It was a success all around, and I love that, and I hope to see it brought back in the future. Alright, so these next two projects I'm going to talk about actually go hand in hand. So this next one that I talk about directly lines up with the one I'm going to be talking about after, and it was the surprise reveal of this incredible Judy Hopps prototype robot that we saw back last year at South by Southwest in March of 2023. This was another project that was being worked on by Morgan Pope and Tony Dohey, which I mentioned at the beginning. They were the lead Imagineers on the Spider-Man Stuntronic, and they were with Josh tomorrow. So Tony, Morgan, and Josh were at South by Southwest, which is a massive festival pretty much every single year in Austin, Texas. And this was actually the first time that Disney had a major presentation here. And not only was it the first time that they had a big presentation at South by Southwest, but like I said, we got this surprise reveal of this Judy Hopps robot. And they brought this cart out on stage, and out of nowhere, this Judy Hopps robot climbs out of this box and then starts performing. And this was one of these wow moments, not only for people in the audience, but once it hit social media, and the reactions to it were incredible because it was out of left field. It was out of nowhere. And I think it goes to show that Walt Disney Imagineering Research and Development, right now at least, has a commitment to bringing these characters to life in real ways. Because, I just said it, but the fact that Disney wanted to highlight this at their first ever South by Southwest showcase, so to say, I think says a lot. And this Judy figure is just so neat to me because it kind of builds on what we've been seeing with the other projects, but actually seeing a figure perform to then bring out the human emotion. It was making people at the South by Southwest presentation laugh, and then like I kind of said with social media, the reactions to it were extremely positive because it's like, what is this and why is Disney working on this? But it was super cool to see that from South by Southwest, and that was the prototype. So as you're seeing in the videos that I'm showing right now, this Judy Hopps thing was a prototype, but it directly led to what we saw 6 months later, which is insane. The turnaround times that they are doing on these projects is impressive to me. And this is what we saw over at Shanghai Disneyland. So Shanghai Disneyland is the home of the world's first, and as of now only, Zootopia themed land. And again, Josh tomorrow was over in Shanghai talking to the media, basically introducing this Zootopia themed land, and out of nowhere, Duke Weaselton comes onto stage pushing a cart. And I vividly remember the first time that I saw the video of this Duke Weaselton figure, I thought it was a puppet being controlled by a person in the cart, so I just scrolled past it. And then later in the day, I found out that this was an Audio-Animatronic figure pushing the cart, and I was like, whoa, this is really cool. And then later on, I actually found out that this Duke figure actually is the next iteration of the Judy that we saw in March of 2023. So, like I said, you have a prototype being shown in March of 2023 for the first time ever, and then at the end of the year, in December, Josh wanted to show guests again, hey, this is where we've gone in less than a year, right in front of the media. And I say right in front of the media because he knows that this is where everyone is going to be recording. So what better way to get something out and online, being seen by hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people, than to put it in front of media where they are going to be recording this and then share it with the world. But this Duke Weaselton figure is just so cool because not only is Duke that next iteration of the Judy figure, the cart that Duke is pushing is also a robot itself, and they are working hand in hand. So not only do you have this incredible figure literally being revealed as a surprise in front of the world's eyes, it's the next iteration of a prototype we just saw now as a final figure in front of the media. And two figures working together, Duke in this cart that Duke is pushing, and then interacting with Josh D'Amaro on stage. I, at the time, and even as I'm recording this, am still super impressed at how Disney revealed this out of nowhere, and how it's two figures working together as a final showcase of this technology just 6 months later after we saw the first prototype. But like I mentioned earlier, they got those reactions from social media and from the people at South by Southwest, which then gave them that confidence and essentially check to say, hey, people like this, let's finish this product, and then show it to media in Shanghai as the final product, which got even more reactions. So it's absolutely brilliant on Disney's end, the way that they've handled these surprise reveals. And personally, I love when they're surprises, because that's what these things should be. When these Imagineers are pouring years of their life into these projects, and then they get to reveal them, I love that. But I think the really cool thing about this Duke figure is that it actually interacted with Josh on stage. And again, the fact that Josh was the one hosting this media presentation, I think goes to show that Josh is committed, and probably himself as a fan of these parks wants to bring these characters to life in these real ways. And it goes all the way back to what I experienced back at IAAPA in November of 2021, like I talked about, because he was very keying in on characters in front of the theme park industry coming out of COVID. And that was almost 3 years ago now, but we've seen this technology evolve since what I saw then at IAAPA. And I just love that he has this commitment, or at least it seems that he has a commitment to wanting to bring characters to life in real ways, because in my opinion, Disney will forever be above any other company because of the emotional attachment that they hold between their characters and their guests. I mean, if you just look at Mickey Mouse, nothing is ever going to be Mickey Mouse, and the emotional attachment that we all have to these characters, and that's, my opinion, what sets Disney apart from everyone else, is the emotional attachment to characters. So what better way to bring these characters to life in real ways, like what we've seen with all of these projects over the past few years, with the incredible new technology that you are developing. Not only can you have the incredible A1000 animatronics, like what we've seen in Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and all of the projects that they're working on right now, but you can actually go down a completely different path. And I'm glad that they have chosen to go down this path, because I don't know if I would have thought of that, to say, hey, let's bring these characters to life in a real way. I think that that's awesome that they are in that mindset. But as of now, at the time of this recording, that Duke Weaselton figure is the most recent one that we have seen, and that figure is impressive. The fact that he is pushing this cart on his own in sync with the cart being its own figure, I truly love that. And I hope that going into this Disney Experiences Showcase at D23, the Ultimate Disney Fan Event, we get a tease of what the next project will be. Maybe they even have the next project done and ready to go, but we will find that out very soon. With all of that being said, I am super excited to see characters brought to life. I've said it multiple times, in real ways, because that is authentic, and that's what Disney does best, authentic storytelling. So I'm very curious to see, what do you guys think? And the question that I have for you is, which character would you bring to life, and which project, like we've talked about, would you pick to bring that character to life? Personally, I am a fan of any character coming to the Disney parks. I think more live entertainment and offerings for guests is a win, regardless of what it is. So I really hope that they start to bring these characters to the parks as permanent offerings, or at least seasonal offerings, like with what we saw with the BDX droids over at Disneyland Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Big fan of that, and that's a very good sign for the future. So I hope to see these Imagineers work, brought to life in new ways, and I think that we are in good hands, specifically with some of this new software and simulations that Disney has. These sound very promising, and what we've seen so far is a very good sign for the future, not only for the attractions that we know and love, with the incredible A1000 figures, but with characters. And that's what sets Disney apart, this emotional attachment that guests like you and I have to these characters. So very excited for the future of Disney experiences. Thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.